baseball, not always the best team wins, right? You got to still go out there and get it done.
Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Baseball Talk. With the season right around the corner, we're getting ramped up. As you know, Baseball Talk always powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Check it out, folks. We have our Super 7 series going on. We're going to be at our opening weekend, Arch Madness at Warrenton. We're going to be then moving on to Branson. We'll be at Branson at Ballparks of America at the end of April. Looking forward to that one. Then we're going to be back up here with the Cinco de Mayo over at Ozzy's. It's always a fun one. We've got the Midland Invitational in mid-May. Always love to see Matt Shadow and his group over there with the Midland Invitational with Game 7 Baseball. And then our Super 7 14U Invitational. 14 teams in it right now. Need a couple more. We were reaching out to some of the folks we've been inviting, so I'm looking forward to a big one there. So if you haven't, please, if you're still interested in getting some tournaments, register at Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Follow us on our X account at YBM_cast. We've got TikTok, IG, and Facebook at Youth Baseball Midwest. Today on the Prime Sports Call Link, our good friend, the guru himself, Mr. Kevin Moulder from Prep Baseball. Kevin, good to see you, buddy.
Great to see you, Brian.
And from the great southwest part of the state, the head coach at Willard High School, Scott McGee. Coach, ramping up, right?
Ramping up. Almost no better time of year. So,
and you
maybe postseason. That's it. Yeah. Beautiful day today. It's gonna be great.
This is where you get the juices flowing, right? You're like,
absolutely, absolutely.
And so looking forward to it. We got some good stuff, and just here we go. We're gonna start first announcement scheduling, folks. Our opening day will be at Willard High School. They're revamping the field playing surface. They're getting turf down there. We were down a couple years ago. We're going to head down again this year for our opening day with the Willard Tigers. They will be facing the Marshfield Blue Jays, finished 4th in the state last year in Class 5. Coach, marquee matchup right off the get. Goodness, don't slow down.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's Marshfield returns most of their team. They just lost 2 or 3 guys, and they've obviously got Hunter Fryman, who's going to Davidson, and they returned most of their pitching from last year. I really like Carson Adams, their third baseman, so it's going to be a really, really good matchup for us. We return 5 starters. We return our number 1 and our number 3, so it should be a really good matchup there on opening day. So hopefully we get weather like this. It'd be perfect if we get weather like this.
Absolutely. Kevin, there's some big time talent in this that I know you've been looking at and you're probably going to see over the next little bit. Talk to us a little bit about this matchup.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And, we've always talked about it. It's great when top programs get together and, especially early in the season. That's fun when you get these types of matchups and, however it comes out, I'm sure both teams will be better for it, as the season progresses.
Absolutely. For us, this is the opening salvo of the season, and I'm going to give a little spoiler alert here for our Class 5 top 20 rankings. And just to give people, if you're not familiar, you're watching the show and you're not familiar with these programs, we have Willard coming in at number 2 in the state in Class 5. And I got Marshfield at number 9 coming in. So this is a top 10 matchup that we're looking at, and I think is a legitimate top 10 matchup. Both these teams, as Coach alluded to, is Kevin, talent across the board. So I don't think there's really any better way than to open up the season with this kind of matchup here. And our first, YBM game of the week starting off. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that I do hope that the weather stays somewhat nice and everybody stays healthy, right? Right, Coach?
I think you're hedging your bet a little bit too. You're going as far south as you can and getting a game on turf. So you're a smart guy, Brian. You're enhancing your chances.
We do what we can, Kevin. Oh man, yeah, Kansas City. No, that's a little too. It just doesn't work as well. But no, I'm looking forward to it. And not to mention, like I said, we've got 9 weeks. Our game of the week is starting with this. We've got a game of the week. And just an FYI, folks, just an announcement. If you go to our website, youthbaseballmidwest.com, we have every game of the week for the season posted. So you'll be able to see every game of the week that we're going to be featuring throughout the 9 weeks of the season. The 9th week is a ode to Illinois. They play an extra week longer than the Missouri schedule. So we'll be over there. I'm looking forward to that one. Freeburg at Triad, which I think is going to be a dandy of a game. We saw some of those kids at the recent showcase. So I am looking forward to that. We've got Liberty North take it at Lee Summit this season, which, of course, the dynamic matchup here for Zumwalt West at this is the first time we're going to be at Francis Howell, Kevin, right?
Wow. Okay.
I know. We haven't been out there yet. So I told Coach, I was like, we got to get out to your place, Coach, and see what's going on. And so we got Fort Zumwalt West at Francis Howell, another game of the week. And one I'm looking forward to, we're traveling over. I've met Coach Simpson a couple years ago at the clinic, head coach over at Boonville. And we are traveling that way early in the season. They're going to be hosting Blair Oaks. So that is definitely, I know if you don't know Class 4, that is definitely a game of the week, folks. Coach, your thoughts on that one? You have a little bit of experience with those guys.
Yeah, we've played Blair Oaks for quite a while. They're really good. You probably, for those of you that watched Division I baseball this past weekend, Will Libert from Blair Oaks was the Sunday starter for Ole Miss and just was dominant. Was up to 95, I think it was, and he looked really good. So, but Blair Oaks has got a great program, and that's going to be a really good ball game over there in Boonville.
Absolutely, and I think Boonville's got a couple guys, Kevin, on the radar, don't they?
Yeah, Boonville's another ball club that's going to be an exciting watch this spring, for sure. So that you picked out a good one. Looking forward to getting to the middle of the state at some point. Obviously, we did the Columbia tournament kind of in early April. I need to check my dates on that. Coach might know it off the top of his head. I don't know. Are you in that one again, guys?
We are. I think it's the 16th through 18th this year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's gonna be a heck of a tournament. They do a great job with that.
Yeah, and Kevin, this year we've talked with Coach Bazat. We will be working to live stream the third place and championship game of the Columbia tournament this year.
That is phenomenal. That is my favorite in Missouri, just because there's some other really great tournaments in the state, certainly, but I think it's the one that brings geographically, teams from all different parts of the state, and it's we meet in the middle and have some fun.
Yeah, and another tournament that we're going to be doing a similar thing. It's in May. Class 4 Southern Boone Invitational. Coach Ash, we're going to be heading over for the third place and championship game there. I think that's going to be a fantastic tournament. With some high-level Class 4 teams in that one. So I'm looking forward. I think our schedule is going to be really good for you folks. Like I said, we have our game of the week already posted on the website. So go check it out, and we appreciate it very much. So, but today we want to get this gentleman into the show. We have from the Missouri High School athletic. I can't say it's Misha. There you go. That's easy for me. Assistant Executive Director for Baseball, Daryl Bradley, joining us. Daryl, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
As always. Last time we talked was at the state championships. It went very well. I thought it was exciting baseball all the way around, and I think we got another one on tap.
Yeah, we had a great week, and luckily weren't affected too much by weather, and there was some exciting games, and thought overall it went pretty good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Daryl, we want to first of all, folks. I want we appreciate Daryl taking the time to talk with us. It's one of the things that we really enjoy because I love the transparency. He's always been on the show, been very open about conversation, and it is greatly appreciated, Daryl. Really. I want to talk to you first. I know this is always, and I'm sure Coach McGee would love to get, but possible class movers. I know these things. You're probably not quite there, but you're getting close to it because you're about a month away from the season. This is always the most difficult piece of the puzzle is when teams start moving classes and you get the championship factors. What is going into this decision-making process?
Well, I'm looking at dots and numbers. Honestly, our bylaw is we base our class. We follow board policy on splitting up the classes as far as that goes, and we have 490 schools registered right now. That I looked. I looked this morning. I wanted to be a little prepared because I figured this may come up. But so we have the same exact numbers as we had a year ago, and schools have up until, I believe, March 12th to decide whether or not they're going to have enough players to participate for the year, or whether or not they're going to keep their registration. So I'll be honest, I don't really look into that too much. I mean, I had 2 schools drop within the last 2 days. So, the numbers are the exact same for where they were last year, but take into effect the championship factor, like you said. But once we get it all divided, we go off of geographic proximity and numerical balance. So don't even, when I'm going through the process, initially we split up the classes. Championship factor is added in there, and then I'm looking at the map of the state of Missouri, and our web developer has done a great job. And basically, there's dots and numbers up there, and we try to get those dots as close as we can, as far as to limit the travel for our teams. To try to place people in districts, and sometimes that's very difficult. And a lot of decisions go into it. So, I may initially go in and put some people where they're at. And then we kind of, involve the entire staff for all of our spring sports. It's not just one. It's like, hey, have you thought about this? And we move it up here, or move some things around to try to make more sense of that map. So, I mean, really, that's the process, but really don't start that process until, after that drop deadline, because it does happen. People drop up until that date. They're practicing and they're figuring out whether or not they can have a team out there. So, that is the process that we go through up here.
Coach, got anything on that?
I just like all the changes that have been made in the last 10 years. I know you guys probably take a lot of criticism about different things, but making sure that there's 8 teams in districts, that's an important thing. I do know that's resulted in some weird travel. We were in a district in 2019 where we played at least Summit West. We had to stay in hotels for district games, and then we got to come back for sectionals and quarterfinals and got to be at home. But there's also no real way to divide all that. I mean,
Yeah.
the only other option you really have is to go to 9-team districts or 6-team districts. And then, man, there's some real inequity there too. So I like that it's been consistent on the 8-team districts. It does result in some weird travel. We've been hurt by that at times, but I do think that that's been a really good change from a few years ago, where sometimes you had 4-team districts and 7-team districts and everything else. This has been quite a bit better.
Yeah, just to remind you of that process. Good point to bring up. Yeah, class 5 and 6. There's 64 teams in that, and then we divide the rest evenly out of there. And so, yeah, and because of that, I mean, because I know, just because I'm from the Southwest Missouri area originally. I mean, it just looks odd when you got maybe a Webb City or a Carthage going north, or Mack County, or I just relate to that. And when the rest of them are kind of around the Joplin Springfield area, it makes those things tough. But there's certain things. I know Springfield Central had to go up north last year, so those are decisions that have to be made, and sometimes teams go up or they go down. We try to really chew it over with the staff, because there's different ways of looking at things, trying to make the most sense out of it.
Daryl, do you guys, when you get into this process, how often and how much do athletic directors or the districts, as far as travel and whatnot? Because I know we talked a little bit, because Rolla's kind of stuck in the middle there, and that always just is such a difficult thing. And like I said, you're going to get people who like decisions and don't like decisions. It's just the way it is and whatnot. Do you talk to the ADs and things of that nature in these situations as well?
Well, we do not, when it comes to making the decisions of where people are going to be placed, but where we go in and communicate is, I have that week to kind of figure out where people are going to be, and then the current process, and this could change, and we've been in the news lately, and like you said, I mean, there are people, before I got in this office, and this is my third year, I knew coming in that I knew what I was getting into. We're not going to make people happy or this, that, but I just want people to try to, form your own opinion, and that's fine. Form your own opinion, and you're not going to agree with decisions that are made, or you're not going to agree with bylaws or a transfer that was denied, this and that. But we celebrated our 100th year this year of being an association, and the reason we were formed is there has to be rules. All right, there has to be rules that we play by, and ultimately we are in place to help interpret those rules and enforce them for the schools. I don't agree with every rule, and I'll go on record to say that. And there's some things I don't understand, but I think that we have a lot of like-minded people that have been in schools before, and I think some changes are coming overall. Because over time things change. Some of these rules have been in place 50 years, so I think we have an aggressive staff and a board that are looking and willing to work with legislators and our schools to try to make a positive change. But going back to how we communicate with administrators is the current process is, so I have that week to kind of get this, and I work quite a bit on this, and develop a site selection chair for every district. So this is where our communication comes in with the site selection chair. And so what happens is, it's their responsibility, and it's an athletic director, and we send that out on the Thursday before districts are released. I believe it's on the 19th of March. Just saying, hey, you're going to be the site selection chair for this particular district. It's your responsibility to reach out to all the schools, see who would like to put in for districts, and then they should fill out a form with their facility, what they offer. Okay, that should be sent back to the site selection chair, and that information should be shared out with the teams in the district. Based upon that information, they vote on who they would like to host. All right. The process could change next year, because you mentioned a school like Rolla. I'll also mention, you could, Cape Girardeau, West Plains, Kirksville, for instance. Those schools are kind of out on an island. They're always traveling. They never get an opportunity to host because, you don't want all those teams going up to that place that's away from everybody. So, we're looking at process. I know it was an area meeting topic, and it definitely won't go in next year, but possibly the next year, just have a first right of refusal. Going off of where you're at in the district, when was the last time you host, and the team at the top who hadn't hosted in a while, they have the opportunity to refuse, or they can accept to host. And if they refuse, that doesn't take them back down to the bottom. It just moves them next up next year. Okay. It may not have been a good year. Maybe they have something going on. But that's some of the things that we're looking into to give everybody an opportunity to maybe host a district that doesn't get it times. Right. So,
Kevin, weigh in.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting process, and is there some consideration maybe with the host, and that with maybe one that's quotations, maybe an outpost where they get to host their games, but the games that they are not involved in, there's a second host site. Would something like that make sense, or does that complicate matters too much?
That process is already in place. You see it a lot in maybe St. Louis area. They don't have lights or the facilities. And so the higher seed always hosts in that situation. And that's up to the tournament committee to decide that. If you've got you may have some facilities that may not have, that can accommodate for a night game. They may have all their first round games at 4 different locations. And so that process is already in place where the higher seed hosts until the semifinals. So, we currently have some of those, and you see it in basketball as well. And it kind of came around once, I believe it started once we had COVID, where you wanted to limit your number of people at your facility. I think that's kind of where it came from. People kind of liked it. And so people have an opportunity to do that now.
Gotcha. The Daryl, with this being said, there's always something, from the years previous, that. Is there any new rules or points of emphasis for the upcoming 2026 season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing, it comes from our coaches association. They put in for an experimental use with the NFHS to add one-way communication to also include the pitcher. Okay, so I think that's one of the biggest things. And the whole idea behind that is to get data on, and I know I'll get some flack for this. It's only for the regular season. That was originally proposed. That's what was approved. So not that couldn't be changed for next year. If this is a 1-year thing, they can certainly reach out and put in for it again if it's not already changed by the NFHS. There's already a growing there's a lot of talk that I'm hearing that this may become a rule anyway. But for the regular season only this year, schools can elect to use that one-way communication from the dugout to the pitcher and the catcher instead of just the catcher. So I think that's big, and I think that's been positive, and I've heard a lot of positive talk from coaches, and they kind of like that. We're going to require that, they keep a little data. Is this actually shortening your game? Is this cutting out on some of the, things that's going to make the flow go a little easier? We're going to ask them to keep track of some of that stuff and, answer a survey at the end of the year. So we can push that along to the NFHS because they want to know that information. So I think that's the biggest thing. We got 3 more items that was passed by the advisory committee that was held last June. The first thing is just adding something to the postseason manual addressing bullpens and adequate bullpens. And it's not a requirement, but it is a recommendation that the facility hosting district adequate bullpens, all right, for both teams. And if there's only one quality bullpen, then both teams will get an opportunity to use that bullpen. Okay. So that was language that is going to be added into our postseason manual. And two changes come to the district window. Classes 1 through 4, they usually started on the Thursday of week, and I got to go through my notes here. Wednesday of week 45 of the Michigan calendar, which would have been May 14th this year, but they requested to move it back to start on Wednesday. They have more teams in their district, or no, I actually have less. They just thought that to get another day in, to just widen that window. So the district window now will be from May 13th through the 23rd. That'll be 10 days. And then for classes 5 and 6, there is a major shift. It usually started on Wednesday, and then they could finish up on the following Monday. That has all moved back to a Monday to Saturday window. Okay. So they can start on May 18th, and that will also end on the same day as 1 through 4 on the 23rd of May. So that was something that was passed from our advisory committee and was approved by our board. Then NFHS rules, there's 3. They're not major changes, but it's kind of a major change for next year. They're adding, it is going to be required that we use the double base for baseball. So you got a while before it goes into effect. So it'll go in January of 2027. But all schools are going to be required to use the double base. And then there's a lot of rules. I know the coaches that are listening, believe it or not, I think there's like 60 slides. I cut the NFHS slide from about 30 related to that one rule in half. So I did the best I could. So that's a big change, but that won't go into effect until next year. So you'll have this year to prepare for that. And the next one is just adding language to one of the rules to include. It allows schools to add school's name, nickname, logo, mascot, player name to be permitted on the uniform top or pants. And this, this is also beginning in 2027. So you got a year to prepare for that as well. That's just something if you're, hey, you're looking at uniforms, you want to add some additional things on your uniform, you are allowed to do that. And then one more rule from the NFHS, it just clarifies a little more. And this is kind of universal language across a lot of rule books. Softball made the same change. No player shall wear any audio, microphone, or video camera during the game. All right. And our officials are, it's just a kind of a point of emphasis because we do know they have the meta glasses out. If they see lights on the camera, they know, and they're not supposed to wear the, what I'm talking, the little cameras that people wear,
the GoPros.
Yeah. So those devices are not allowed during the game. So, but those are all the NFHS rules. And, on our rules review that's coming out on the 23rd, that's actually starting on Monday. So coaches and officials will have 3 weeks to complete that. But that starts on Monday. But all those things are in that online rules review.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Coach, just going back to the PitchCom piece, you're part of the Coaches Association. How'd that come about, and why do you think that's going to be important?
Yeah, I think when we're looking at ease of communication and when we're looking at speeding the game up, what's happening right now is we can communicate with our catcher. We communicate with the catcher. He puts down a sign. The pitcher shakes him off. Now, where do we go from there? Does the coach call another pitch into the headset? Does the catcher go on his own? It adds, when it's going well, the catcher communication does speed the game up. There's also times when it has slowed it down a little bit. And I think sometimes by design by some coaches, in our area, the umpires are starting to enforce the pitch clock a little bit more, which has been a good thing. And then if you add into we can communicate with the pitcher now. I call a pitch in the headset. If the pitcher doesn't like it, say no. I can suggest another pitch. We can get going. I mean, we can get those pitches done in 10 to 12 seconds at a time, which is the way baseball should be played. And we're seeing this at the major league level. That's why we're having the rebirth of fans. I mean, people are coming to watch baseball games again because it's not taking 3.5 hours to play 9 innings. And we need to get that same thing in high school baseball. So I think going forward, that's going to be a huge thing. You're seeing it in college baseball. College baseball is moving a little bit quicker now too, and we're seeing that. I think this is going to be a really good thing on the being able to communicate with the pitchers.
With the data, and I think that's to me that's the onus now for the coaches, isn't it, to collect data? What is going to be some of the processes that you're looking at, Coach, that's going to help you deliver the data that is necessary for this?
It's where it's really beneficial that we film all of our games. So now you can just like I don't have to think about any of that during the game. But now afterwards, I can go back and I can start adding up. Okay, how did we play a 7 inning, 5-4 game in an hour 48? Because that would be a great time to do that. And so like being able to go through that data would be really beneficial there. And I think this is going to be something I've heard basically nobody that's really against this. I think it's going to be a really well received thing for the people who participate. Yeah,
I like it as far as live streaming. That's cool. I'm hip. And as far as if I'm an umpire, I mean the best game I ever did was a high school summer game. Had a couple of dudes on the mound. We went an hour and 20 minutes, man. 2-1 ball game. That's getting it done right there.
yes, it is.
As an umpire, you love that stuff. Kevin, thoughts on what struck you in all this?
Yeah, no, I like the fact that we're trying to mimic college baseball or MLB baseball, and ultimately, some of these kids are going to be moving on to that level. So I think it makes sense to add in the safety base over at first base, whether you agree or disagree with that. College baseball is doing it. Major professional baseball moved to a bigger base, more or less the same thing. So I think that makes sense. In the pitch comp thing, just even without seeing the data and whatnot, you can notice during a college baseball game or a professional baseball game for the year before they had this rule to the year they implemented it, you could feel a difference in that. It sped the game up, and I like to hear Coach McGee saying they're enforcing that rule in the Southwest. All it takes is a couple times where a game, there's a violation, and it gets the thing moving a little bit, and the kids catch on, the coaches make adjustments, and it takes about a week or two, and then it becomes normal. So I think those are all positive steps in the right direction for baseball in Missouri.
I love it. Daryl, one last thing here. Expected release date. Once you guys start that process, how long does it take, and when do you guys think you'll be able to release? I know no holding you here. I don't want to. This isn't hard. I don't want people to be misinformed. But how long does that process usually take? And because I know coaches are all anxious to get their district assignment. They know what they're doing and whatnot. So what does that process usually take in the time-wise?
Well, it's usually that third Friday after the season starts. Well, that's when it always is. So it'll be March 20th. No, let me look at my calendar. I'm sorry here.
Oh, you're fine.
It actually is March 20th. It's March 20th. It'll be at 7 a.m. on the MSHSAA website. You can go to the baseball page, and it's we will have different tabs. We changed the interface a little bit. So if you go to the MSHSAA website now, go to the baseball page. It's actually one of the tabs. I believe it's fall, spring, and then info. You go to the info. You go to class and district assignments. And that's where they will find out. So traffic usually picks up on that third Friday after the season starts for fall, winter, and spring. So we know people anticipate that. And we're very transparent. If we get some people that let me say schools, not people. We're not going to. We expect our communications, we communicate with our schools. So if there's some transparency that needs to go on there, we welcome those conversations. And then, maybe, the school will then communicate with a parent that may have concerns. So that's what we prefer, but it'll be that third Friday, 7 a.m.
So right after we're done with that first game of the week there, Coach, we're going to know. We'll be doing that.
Yeah, and most likely we're in the same district. I can't imagine us and Marshfield won't be in the same district. So we'll play Thursday night, maybe for the 1 seed in that district, and then we'll get confirmation the next morning. But I'd say that's how us and Marshfield will both be approaching it. Which I know Daryl didn't talk about this, but came up in the area meetings that we may be moving forward with a point system to seed districts going forward. Which is going to be a little bit trickier for baseball because of the discrepancy in games played by some schools. But I do think that will alleviate some of the concerns. Our concern about the release date being on the Friday is there is a chance us and Marshfield are playing each other for the 1 seed in districts, but we're not really sure if that game matters at all. Once you go to a point system, a lot of that stuff gets thrown out of the window because now you're just competing for the points. And so I think long term that's going to be a really good thing for us.
That's interesting.
And that's a good point to bring up. Give you a little more info on that, as Scott mentioned. Next year, it's going to be piloted, okay? And the coaches will be able to view those, but it will not be open to the general public. And it'll just be a pilot because we understand that there may be some things. It's going to be different than the football model. They track currently, if a school in Missouri plays an out-of-state opponent, they track that schedule from that opponent for the entire season. And we will not track out-of-state opponents. I don't believe that we will have play-up points in this model. There'll be a run differential. And the baseball committee decided on 7 runs last year that we would initially set that. So there are some things that will need to be tweaked a little bit specifically for baseball. So next year will be a pilot, and we'll make a determination whether or not to move forward on that to actually put that in place the following year. But it'll be interesting for sure. I'm excited about it.
This is honestly, I love this stuff because it's one of my favorites every year that we do because Mr. Bradley comes on dropping knowledge on us like this. And with Coach McGee, you guys work how closely, and the relationship, it's got to be really good between the Coaches Association and Misha to make these things all work together, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm only somewhat involved on that side of things. But I will say that the one good thing is there's been a much better relationship over the last 10 years that I think has really helped move our state forward. You just look at, you go back to like 2015, you were allowed to play 20 games, plus you could do 5 Saturday doubleheaders. That was it. JV and freshman teams were almost thrown to the side. Now with the 36 games, now with the pitch counts, with the quarterfinal best of 3, there's so many good things that have happened here in the last few years. And that doesn't happen without a good relationship there.
Daryl?
Yeah, I would agree. I just welcome, feedback, and, we're here to make things better. If as long as the membership wants it, we're a membership over 700 schools. And so sometimes it may be good for one area and may not be good for another, and so there's a lot of things to consider, but I'm certainly glad to hear that there has been some positive change. And I think that we'll continue that change moving forward.
Go ahead, Kevin, you were going to say something.
No.
Okay. One last thing here, Daryl, before we let you get back to your day. The championships have been down in Springfield, and I think we got this year and 2 more after that. Is that correct?
That was extended to 2031. So, 2031. And that was extended last year, I believe, an extension of that. And our RFP process has changed. You would have some sports, they would, the RFP is for a 5-year commitment. Okay. But they would happen at different times. We've changed that to where we send out. So it's not so much on a community to get together a proposal. The change is that we are forming all of our RFP process to all go out to a certain sports commission or community that wants to bid on this. And so they're not rehashing this every year for different things. All right. So that's kind of the thought process behind it. But that was extended, until 2031. But I do know that there are some things that are coming, sports that are going to be, after we unveil the RFPs for until 2031 for other things, it'll go, everything will be up in 2031. So baseball was just extended, just to, I don't know if it was just to accommodate that. That's not my department, but I do know that we will be there until 2031. And I do know that they have added new turf at Ozark Mountain Sports Complex. I got some pictures over Christmas break. They about had the outfield done. They've updated bullpens to include fencing around that. So they've made some good improvements. I'm still waiting on that hotel to be built there. But I do hear that there may be some other fields getting. I'm sorry. No, I love those guys down there. They're great to work with, but I heard about that hotel a couple years ago. But I do hear that they're going to be putting in some other fields as well. So, and I feel confident they'll get that done. But I do know, we got new turf coming. It's going to be exciting. Should be some good upgrades.
Absolutely. Shout out to Randy Merriman down there doing a good job with that. That was cool. We always love going down there. Kevin, final thoughts? Anything you have left there for Mr. Bradley?
No, I've been, it's been an exciting past couple of years for the state of Missouri in high school baseball, with the early practice window expanding or coming into play, the 36 games, the best 2 out of 3 for class 5 and 6. I think there's a lot of momentum in the state of Missouri, and you are seeing that on the field, the positive impacts that those changes have made.
Absolutely. As a fan, I love it. That's what we do. It's about fans, and we're excited. I think baseball is a lot of fun in the state of Missouri. I love all the classes down. I think it's very competitive across the board in all the classes. I think there's some great competition. We saw that last year where, we saw some of the marquee teams not quite get to the finish line in the championships, and had some Cinderellas, for lack of a better way to put it. I don't know, come in and pull out some championships, which was a heck of a lot of fun watching everybody play some baseball. So, Daryl, man, we appreciate your time. And honestly, man, I do. I really appreciate you taking the time, letting us know what's going on there with MSHSAA. It's greatly appreciated.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, and just wishing all the teams the best of luck. And coaches, if you need something, give me a holler.
Outstanding. That is Daryl Bradley, Executive Assistant Director from MSHSAA, and we appreciate him taking the time today. We're going to move on to the show, and we're going to jump into a few things. I know Coach McGee probably have to jump off here shortly, but we want to preview. We're going to be with Mr. Moulder over at the Sports Barn in Wentzville. He's got his Missouri All-State invite coming up. Kevin, it looks like a pretty good roster this year.
Yeah, I'm super excited about our roster. We're going with a slightly different format this year. We're splitting the players up into underclass and upper class, which always makes it a little easier to evaluate and watch when you're able to watch them versus their peers. You're not seeing freshmen and seniors. In one BP session, you got a freshman, then the next one you got a senior. That makes it a little easier, and also just a little bit easier to manage the numbers. But got an exciting roster for that, and we're looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite events of the year, and then for multiple reasons. Really, is once we get through this, it's about time for high school baseball.
Yeah, Coach, he consistently, because I'll bring up stuff, I'll try and prod him into doing it. He'll go, nope, ain't going to say anything till after the event, then I'll talk about it.
What Kevin has talked about this quite a bit, but the amount of growth people show from October till February is just you could be a totally different player, and so now people are getting the opportunity to show that right here with some of these events that are right before the season. It's routine that I kind of feel like I have a feel for a team, and then all of a sudden someone just pops up that was throwing 80 in October and is now at 87, and they're just a totally different person. And so it's cool that we have these kinds of events that we get a chance to see that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Kevin, some of the freshmen that, I know you really do you have any idea of some of these freshmen that you're excited about seeing?
I know some of them from the Junior Future Games, and we had a really good showing again for Team Missouri this year. But honestly, that's one of my favorite things is learning about these young guys. And really during these winter events is when I start to learn about this freshman class, and because usually you don't see. There'll be a handful of them impacting the varsity level, and we've had discussions about that. But I try not to judge them too much on their high school season for multiple reasons. One, a freshman at a smaller school might get more of an opportunity than one that's at one of the bigger class sixes or one of the stronger programs. And then number two, they are a freshman competing against, varsity players. So if a kid comes up and hits, 190, it doesn't mean he's a terrible player, or if he struggles a little bit on the first mount. He's one of the best freshmen out there if he's on the varsity. So I don't try to hold their performance in the spring. I try not to weight that too much, if you will. So these events in the winter and in the summer when I start to take in the names of the freshmen.
Coach, you got is there any buzz, some freshman buzz down there in your neck of the woods?
It's interesting because a lot of the really good freshmen, no surprise, are at the really good baseball schools. And so, you have some guys there, and that's not always been the case. We have
Right.
definitely had some guys that burst onto the scene as freshmen at some non-baseball schools and elevated some programs. But when I look at the freshmen in this area, Rogersville's freshman class is really strong. Ozarks is very, very strong.
Mm.
Kickapoo has a really good freshman. Those guys are all in the PBR top 10 in that class. But I don't know that are any of those guys going to play varsity? That's to Kevin's point. I don't know that they are because of some of those programs and their successes. So there's I wouldn't say a whole lot of buzz outside of those kids. I'm fascinated to see how some coaches handle some of those decisions because they're not easy to make. Do you play a 14-year-old who might hit 230, or do you play an 18-year-old who's going to also hit 230 but knows absolutely everything about the way you play the game? What's better for your program, not just for the future, but maybe for May 15, where that freshman could come up. Rogersville had some freshmen last year that by the postseason were ready to go and made some huge plays for them down the stretch. And so it's a tough balance as a coach to decide that.
Kevin, when you hear coach say that, and I think this is what's tough for sometimes with parents, they go, "Oh, my kid's better than that kid." Well, maybe, but not in this situation.
Well, and as a coach, that younger guy is more talented, but that doesn't mean he's going to be better for you and your team. And there's multiple dynamics to this, and not only from a political standpoint, but also what's best for that young player. Like if coach is weighing what to do with a talented freshman, and he knows he's got a good future, he needs to make sure he's developing him still and going to reach his full potential. Now that might be at the varsity level, and also there's the mental aspect of it. Some kids, baseball's a failure sport, and when you're playing up multiple years, can the kid handle getting beat up a little bit and having those days where he gets it handed to him and going 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts and looking bad? Every kid reacts to this differently, and generally those super talented freshmen haven't failed a ton. And if they play varsity baseball for the first time, I can promise you failure's coming at some point. And no one knows better than a coach. No one knows better than the coach of his roster better than the coach. So, there's a lot of factors into it.
Yeah. And, as a parent, when you step outside, it's hard sometimes. I know, you see this, you see that. Coach, you got to have those conversations. They're difficult, but for the most part, I think parents manage that pretty well, don't they?
They do. The parents of the kids who are going to make it, they understand it. You do see some kids. The trouble is when you've got a talented freshman who hasn't really played a whole lot of great level of baseball, and then they just think it's going to be pretty easy, and it is such a huge jump that they have no chance, and they're not even really getting to practice with the varsity, and then that's why they don't understand. And it's just that, as Kevin said, there's a good eighth grader is probably hitting 450. And if you now put that kid on varsity, you're happy if they hit 250. And can players and parents handle that? That's a totally different world. Breaking balls, it's so rare that a freshman can hit breaking balls. That's what Brady Yates burst onto the scene 2 years ago as a freshman who could hit home runs on breaking balls at Glendale. And that was that doesn't happen very often. And so there's a lot of things that go into that. And yeah, it's hard to know until you're in the thick of a program. We've only had one freshman named Garrett Rice. He went to Mizzou. He was the only one that was like, as a freshman, this guy's legitimately our best option in multiple facets of the game. Most of the time, it is not that way.
Wow. That's hard pills to swallow sometimes for folks, but it's just the reality of it. Just the reality of it.
I got to go. Thank you guys so much. Can't wait to see you guys here soon. See you, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
We'll be in touch, Coach. Kevin, and I love that conversation right there, because these are things that we've talked about so much on this show, and it really brings to bear, because especially when we're getting ready to do this, you're going to see a lot of these kids. They're going to get in positional ranks. But again, I want to caution folks, when you're doing this is an evaluation of players is as far as projectability, where they're looking at, because you're thinking about more at a varsity level. And then when they're at the varsity level, you're thinking about where they're going to be for college, correct?
Yeah, even beyond. Yeah, that's right. College and professional. So, yeah, and the thing with these young guys, they change so much, and a kid can be. We talk. I love the phrase boys high school baseball, men's college baseball. Those young guys, there are some that are just so physically advanced that they're able to play up a little bit. And there's some other freshmen that are highly skilled, way more skilled than the stronger kids in their class. But the stronger kids are outperforming them because they're able to physically play at the varsity level. But they're not actually better baseball players than the highly skilled 145-pound teammate of theirs. They're just better at the time because they have 45 pounds of strength on them, and they developed. And over time, what happens is the skilled player gains that mass, gains that strength, and ultimately ends up becoming the better player. So everyone's path is slightly different. Would be my messaging to the players and to the parents. And the other piece of it is that Coach McGee, we didn't get into too much, is if you're bringing a kid up, you want to make sure he plays. And I have seen some very good freshmen do very good on varsity and get opportunities. I'm not saying it can't happen. It certainly can. But as a coach, if you're bringing a kid up, you want to make sure he's playing, because the worst thing you can do is bring up a young guy and then have him, sit on the bench most of the season. That doesn't benefit the young player.
One name I know that's in this area, you've brought it up, there is a lot of buzz elsewhere as well, is Ben Delick, the young man headed over to Oakville. Coach Strum's going to have Coach Strum's going to have a little bit of a decision on his hands, but we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, that Ben is a guy that can flat out hit and is physically able to, and he's not one of those early developed, monsters, but he has a sweet swing. It will be interesting. He's one of the freshmen that I'm going to have an eye on to see what they do with him at Oakville. In whichever way it happens, will be fine. But he will be one of the ones that will have an opportunity to make an impact potentially. It'll be fun to watch.
And there's some of the I'm looking forward to seeing Calcaterra. I'm looking forward to seeing the Grant Dingus, Carter Fleck, got Phoenix Hula. Those are ones. Brady Rollo. I'm looking forward to seeing. These are some kids that I've seen. You've talked about. We've seen that had pretty good freshman seasons. So it'll be interesting to see where they're at in their development process.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, I'm really charged up. Looking forward to Saturday. We're getting towards the end of the off season. I don't know who it will be, but there will be significant jumps that will be noticed. On Saturday from where they were at last summer or this fall. So it's always a fun day, and we certainly have a really nice roster put together for this event.
Absolutely. So, and I think that's always the fun one to me. You're always going to see, and what's cool to me is you're also starting to see a lot of the homeschool kids come into this process, which I think is very interesting. The young man from the St. Louis Patriots, I'm going to miss him.
Haverly Cox.
Yes, heading to Illinois. How many people knew about this kid, right?
I did.
Besides Kevin.
Yeah.
That's why you're the guru, bro.
No, but that was a fun story, and those types are they're fun, and when you get a kid that flies under the radar, you get an opportunity to bring them down to an event like the Future Games, and then everyone's losing their mind because they don't know who he is, and he's throwing 94. So it's the recruiting process was a whirlwind for Haverly this late summer and fall. But those are fun situations, and with those homeschool kids or sometimes the really small town kids, you'll see that happen occasionally.
Absolutely. And on the other side of that, you have I got to get to this. Oh, hang on. That didn't work. I'll get there. I promise. There it is. It's slow. It's a little slow. The upper class, again, these are when you see these kids here, I know you're looking at the projectability. Your job is to do that. And I get that. And I want people to understand when you're doing these rosters, when you set these things in motion, again, I always love to reiterate, folks, have to understand what you're doing here as a scouting director. You're putting these kids in a place where what does their future look like as they're moving into the collegiate level? But I want to ask you, just from then just, this mode as we are looking here, it's got to give you some pretty good ideas of what we're going to see on the ball fields around the state.
Absolutely, and we've talked about it a little bit already on the show. I will start working on my preseason projections for high school teams and etc. after these winter events, because you start to get an idea of, hey, I had no clue this arm was going to be like this, and that looks like a true number one starter. And oh man, look, so and so school has 3 or 4 legitimate arms. They look really strong this spring. So it definitely gives you a good idea, in getting to cover the entire state like I do, and seeing kids from all corners of the state. It really does prepare you to it makes some educated guesses. Yeah. Obviously, it plays out on the field, and things change. There are injuries. There are kids that perform better than others, but you do get a general good idea of what is about to happen.
Yeah, and it's fun for me because as you see, I learn, get educated, and you learn and you grow about things because I try to follow your scouting days at the different events and look at kids, because there's some kids there that I hadn't seen before, names and whatnot, that may not have gone to a bigger event or this or that, but they're at a scout day. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that kid makes a difference on this team. that I didn't know about. And because I start way early because we have to start thinking about what is our schedule like for our live streams? What are we doing? How are we putting these things together? So I start in that trajectory, but it helps as I'm going along. And I've over the last, because I continue to do this over the last probably 3 weeks, going through some of these things and doing, I've made some different decisions about some teams and moved some things around from our not too early, uh, power rankings that we did for the conferences and where I think teams may be. There may be a little flip. And people go, well, how'd you know? Well, because as you said, and this is true, I just start earlier because we have to start looking at how we're going to set ourselves in motion because I'm doing things differently than you are. And I think
Right.
that's the biggest thing that, is the difference in what we're doing. So I look at this and I'm thinking, okay, because last night we were at the Fenton location of the premier pitching performance. Did a podcast, recorded a podcast with Brett Graves and Andrew Schwab down there, and talking to those guys. And I just love chatting with all the pitchers that showed up there and some MICDS guys, Chaminade guys. There was some Vianney guys and Ben Theriff. He looks pretty good right now. Big kid too, man. And,
Yeah.
Vianney, I think maybe have to rethink how I put them in class 6.
Ben was a breakout pitcher last spring, and yeah, I'm sure he's put in some off-season work and developed even more, and that's what makes events like these fun, is you get to kind of see where those kids are at.
I love talking to the MICDS kids. We saw it was fun, enjoyable, and that to me is where you start understanding the process. These kids are in there working, man, and we got MICDS on the schedule against Duchesne, and I know that sounds like a game of the week too, right? That's what's tough about this whole gig.
Tough decisions, right?
They are, Kevin. They are. So some of the seniors, juniors that kind of stand, especially the junior class that kind of stands off that you're looking forward to seeing here, Kevin.
Well, truthfully, I'm looking forward to seeing all of them.
Right.
I could rattle off some of the big names, that are coming, like, Brady Yates and Cole Chambers going to OU, and Cam Miller going to TCU, Michael Sin going to Mizzou, and back at York, Mizzou, and Brady Smith has been a standout. He's going to Wichita State. I saw him a week ago, up to 93. So there's a lot of big, Max Partney. I could take you through a lot of those big time Carter Martin, big time committed guys. But I am very excited to see them. But I also like seeing, a lot of the guys that are uncommitted. And a year ago, a kid like Luke Sullivan, wasn't committed, and then has a big off season and commits to Mizzou at the senior future games. I guess that was 2 years ago. He's a senior now, or he's a freshman now at Mizzou. But so it'll be fun, and I look forward to combing through all of this on Monday and Tuesday next week. And you kind of look back and you're like, wow, that kid was this a year ago, and now he's that. And it's an exciting time for these kids.
Well, we're looking forward to it this Saturday at the Sports Barn over in Wentzville. We'll be there. We're going to be bringing the cameras, interviewing some kids, having some fun. Looking forward to it, Kevin.
Look forward to seeing you over there.
Absolutely. Folks, if you want to follow Mr. Moulder, tell them where they can, Kevin.
PB_Moulder in Prep Baseball, Missouri.
There you go. Make sure it's a good follow. Make sure you check it out. And folks, if you like what we're doing here, we appreciate it. Look, I know we've got a lot of exclusive content. It's in the YBM Club. I know there's some people that have reached out. We're finishing our legacy drive. Right now it's 50% off for the first year. We've put this stuff, we put this content in our club as a membership. It's going to help us continue to do what we're doing. We need the support, and it's a financial piece for us that helps us continue to bring live streams, to do all these things along with our sponsors that we're getting. We appreciate it. And the folks that have sponsored our live streams throughout the last few years, we appreciate it greatly. So please, if you like the exclusive content, consider becoming a member of the YBM Club right now. And come March 1st, we're going to open up some other options. And but right now we want to finish up our drive, and we got some cool stuff coming on the horizon. We're looking at some corporate partners to bring some more perks, especially as people are traveling around. We've got some cool stuff. We're working hard behind the scenes to make the club something that is of benefit to you. So we appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, Kevin, do it.
Keep throwing strikes.
And you hitters, make sure you hit them where they aim. And we will see you next time.